Here's a very, very short program. I didn't even separate the CSS styles or the JavaScript into its own separate file. Everything is right here in the HTML file itself. I gave this file a name of xmasCountdown.html. You can name it whatever you want. To the left here is my Notepad++ where I do my coding. To the right here is the browser, and you get to see what the web page looks like. It's just a little snippet here. I'm using a field set. As you can see, it's got this thin line all the way around all the other elements. They're all contained in the field set. And then the legend of the field set is kind of like a caption. So the legend says, guess what, in the field set. Then we've got 4 divisions here that will hold data. The top one holds days. The second one holds hours. The third one holds minutes. And the fourth one holds seconds. And as you can see, it's constantly counting down. 24, 23, 22. And when this reaches 0, then our 12 minutes will change to 11 minutes. When the minutes reaches 0, then the hours will go from 11 hours to 10, and so on and so forth until we reach Christmas Day. Down here at the bottom, this is another division section that outputs the data of whatever holiday or whatever countdown day we're referring to. Alright, so here it is running on the right in the browser, and on the left, let's go over the code. We start off our web page with our doc type declaration. Then we have opening and closing HTML tags. Starts on line 2, ends on 84. As you can see, we've got quite a bit of code closed up, and we'll go over all that in a moment. But let's just go over this little shell first. We have opening and closing title tags. In between those title tags, it says holiday countdown. You can call it whatever you want, but that's going to show up here in the browser's tab, whatever you type in there. Alright, here's our opening head tag. And our opening head tag goes from line 4 to line 68. The two things that we have inside of our head tags, we have styles and we have scripts. In between the style tags, we have our CSS styles, and in between our script tags, we have our JavaScript. So let's take a look at our styles first. Let's open it up, and in between our style tags, we have a number of things that we're going to style. .timebox means we're going to style a class name called timebox, and for timebox we give it a border, a margin, and a padding. We set border, margin, and padding to specifics. After that, and I believe this class timebox, class because we're using it more than once on more than one element in the page, what do you see in this page has a 5-pixel pink outset, 3 pixel of margin, and 5 pixels of padding. Well, if you can notice, each one of these have the 5 pixels of pink outset border. So class timebox is stylizing each one of these things right here by giving it that pink border with a specific margin and a specific padding. Alright. The next thing we have as far as styles go is we have an ID, not a style, an ID, because we use IDs when we're only going to stylize one single element of the page. We use a class when we're going to stylize more than one thing. So here we're going to stylize one particular thing, so we use pound ID, which means ID, special day box. The styles that are set here are font size, color, margin top, border radius, border padding, and background color. So based on the way that we stylize these particular attributes, you can see that font size 35 pixels, color red. The only thing that has a color of red is this that says until Christmas. Font size is how large our font is. Margin top, 20 pixels, so that's the space between this particular element and this last area of the page that gives us our seconds. We have 20 pixels in between those two. Border radius of 20 pixels gives us the rounded edges, the rounded corners, I mean. Border thick green dash. Do you see this green dashed line of border all the way around? Padding is 15 pixels, so in between the outer edge of this element and our font, from here to here, we have 15 pixels of space, and then the background color is pink. So you change any of these styles and you'll change what this little piece right here of the web page looks like. All right. Then we have field set, which again, the field set basically is holding everything else inside of it. It's enclosing it on the web page. So for the field set, I gave it a simple width of 250 pixels. If you change that to 350 pixels, naturally it's going to get wider on your web page. You could also set it to a percentage if you want it to be a percentage of the web page, but I'm giving it a static 250 pixels straight width. Alright, so that's the only thing that I have set as far as styles go. So we're done with all the CSS. So let's close up the style tags and make room, and now let's look at our JavaScript, the action coding. Let's open up this. The code that I got this from online gives us script type equals text / JavaScript. You really don't have to do that anymore. Just a plain old opening script tag without that extra attribute should work just fine. And if I refresh this, you can see my code is still running. It didn't quit running just because I took that extra opening script tag information out. So between line 30 and line 67, we have all of our JavaScript. All right. First thing we have right here, and again, I got this from the internet. Anytime you want to practice coding, you can get all kind of different things on the internet and then change them to suit your own needs. But this function was given a name cdtd, and right off the top of my head, I don't even know what that means. Maybe Christmas Day, Timer Day, I don't know. I can't remember what the author called this, but I can change this to something else. Function holiday. Okay, so now everywhere that I had that function cdtd, I need to change that. So let's find cdtd everywhere else that it is and change it to holiday. So here we have it on line 81. Here we're calling it. Instead, I'm going to call it holiday. And where else did we find it? On line 64 as well. Let's click there. And here we're using set timeout and calling it. Again, I've changed it to the function's name is now holiday. Alright, so there we're done with that part. Close this back up a bit. Okay, so we're creating this function called holiday. So we start off with the function keyword, the name of our choice, which is holiday. There happens to be no parameters inside of the parentheses, so it's an empty parentheses. And then we start off our function code with our opening curly brace. So the very first line of code for this function is, we're using the var keyword because we're creating a variable. Xmas is the variable we want to create, that's the name we want to give it, equals new date, and then in parentheses and double quotes we have December space 25 comma 2018 space 00:01:00. Close up your double quote, your parenthesis, and end that statement with a semicolon. So we've created a variable, and we have, with the single equals symbol, assigned it to this expression. Whatever the value of this expression is now going to be the value of Xmas. The next statement that we have is var now equals new date. So whatever new date is, whatever this expression new date gives us, we are assigning it to the variable called now. The third statement we have is this one. This is actually using an expression on the right hand side and using the single equal symbol to give whatever the value of that expression, give that value to this name time diff. So we have var time diff equals, and the expression on the right hand side is we are going to use our variable xmas.getTime minus now.getTime. And both getTime are functions themselves. So getTime has empty parentheses in both places. All right, and that's going to give us the time difference. Whatever value Christmas gets minus now, that's going to give us the time difference between now and Christmas. All right, enough of that ramble. Let's go on. This isn't a note to us. This is just a little comment. When you reach your countdown destination. So we're counting down. That's all fine and good. But what we want is, what are we going to do once we reach that countdown? So here we have an if condition. So we have the keyword if, and then in parentheses we're putting the condition. If the value of the variable timeDiff is less than or equal to 0, what's going to happen is enclosed in curly braces. We have two statements here that's going to happen once timeDiff has a value less than or equal to 0. We're going to do this line of code that says clear timeout, parentheses, timer, semicolon, and then we are going to do this. Document.write, parentheses and double quotes, Christmas is here. Now, you're not going to know when you're not going to be able to test that functionality unless you change what value you're giving Christmas. For instance, I can change this. This is what the value of Christmas is. I can change that to now with a time that's within a couple of minutes. As a matter of fact, the time may be while I'm still doing this video. At that point, we should see how that function executes. So why not? We have May 15th, so I'll take December off, and I'll say May 15th, 2018, and this should be in hours, minutes, and seconds. Right now it's 1:59 p.m. and in military time, noon is 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock is 13, and 2 o'clock is 14. So if I'm correct, at 1400, okay, it literally just turned 2 o'clock right now. I mean, the moment that I was trying to do that before this happened, you see everything disappeared, and we have this document. We used this document.write. Wow. To write on our page, Christmas is here. That's what this did. We cleared the timer, so we were no longer counting down. And then this line right here, document.write, Christmas is here, is what ran. Christmas is here. If I changed this to Tuesday is here, well, I can just say blah is here, right? And I can change this to a minute after 1402. And let's do this. Now, you can see there's 0 days, 0 hours, 0 minutes, and 46 seconds before we get this message covering everything up. Blah, blah, blah is here. We'll show 37, 36. So anyway, while that's doing that, I'll read some more code. Also, this is basically showing you where you would run any code needed for countdown completion. So you have a countdown, then you want to clear the timer so it's not continuing to count, but you want something to happen. You probably don't want this to happen, just to write a message and cover up the whole web page. You probably, if you're going to put a message, you're not going to use document.write. You're going to change some kind of inner HTML of an element maybe. You're not going to cover up your whole page. You're going to have something off to the side or wherever you want the message to be. Document.write just does this, which is ugly, but I'm showing you the functionality. All right. So now that we've seen that, let's go back to the original message. Christmas is here. And then let's change the original date that the countdown is dealing with. December 25th. And what was this originally? 00, was that a minute after? Is that what it was set to, a minute after? I'll have to watch this video to see what was originally set, because this is hours, and this is minutes, and this is seconds. I guess technically we could have it a second after midnight. But that would happen so fast that checking your code would be difficult to leave just a second. But in any event, now we're back to the 223 days, 10 hours, 56 minutes, and 38 seconds until Christmas. All right, so I showed you the if condition. If the timeout is less than or equal to 0, we're going to clear out the timer and we're going to write something on the page. And again, however you want to change that, instead of document.write, you might want to put a message on the top of your screen in a header or on a button or in some other type of div. You might want that to be, you might want Christmas is here to show up down here in this particular element that's already created on the page. Okay, so here is another note to ourselves. Set some expressions to some variables. Also, with your if condition, don't forget your closing curly brace here. So now let's set some expressions to some variables. Here's the first statement. Remember, on the right-hand side of the single equals assignment is usually an expression where you're going to actually do some math, or you're going to do something, you're going to come up with a value, and then on the left-hand side of the equal, you're going to stick that value in a name, which is a variable. So var seconds equals math.floor, parentheses time diff divided by 1000. All right, the next line of code, the expression on the right-hand side is math.floor, and then in parentheses seconds divided by 60. And then on the left-hand side, whatever this value is will be put into the minutes variable. We're going to do the exact same thing for hours and the same thing for days. So here's how we do the hours. Var hours equals math.floor, parentheses minutes divided by 60. And finally, last but not least, var days equals math.floor, parentheses hours divided by 24 in the parentheses. And don't forget your ending semicolon for each one of these statements. All right, here's a little note to ourselves. Grab only the remainders using modulus. So we don't want to use any decimal values. We don't want to use any excess values. We just want what's left over. So here, hours modulus equals 24, minutes modulus equals 60, seconds modulus equals 60. So only the remainders of those division problems, because modulus means the value of minutes divided by 60. Whatever is left over is what the final value of minutes is. Instead of the actual division problem, you want only the remainder of the division problem. We did the same thing for the hours, the minutes, and the seconds. All right, the next note we have to ourselves is we're going to output variables values to your page. All right, so in this first statement right here, this is the line of code that's going to give us this right here, this 223 days ... So we have on the left-hand side of the equal sign, that is going to be assigned the value of what's on the right-hand side of the equal sign. So on the right-hand side of the equals assignment statement, we have the variable days. So it's whatever the expression value, whatever the value of days is after the expression, which in this case it's 223, plus the string, the literal text that you see in the double quotes. You have space, days, ... And that's where you get this day space after 223. You have a space, then the word days, then a ... So the value of days plus space, days, ... Whatever that is gets put here. So this particular box at the top, well, this element isn't, it's not a button or anything, but it's in the shape of a rectangle or shape of a box. So I gave it the name days box. You could just call it days if you want. I gave it an ID, and this is the ID that I gave it, days box, because it makes sense to me. This is the box that I want the days to go in. So we use document.getElement by ID in parentheses and double quotes, the name of that element, which is days box, dot inner HTML. The dot inner HTML means what do we want to put inside that element. So we have an element called days box, and what we want to put inside of it, the text that you want to see inside of it, is going to have the value of this, the value of days plus the word days, dot dot dot. We're going to do the same thing for the rest of these boxes. Here's the second one, document.getElement by ID, parentheses and double quotes, hours box, because that's what I named that element, dot enter HTML equals the value of hours plus the words hours, dot dot dot. Next we have document.getElement by ID, parentheses double quotes, mins box, because we're referring to the minutes, dot enter HTML equals the value of minutes plus the word minutes, dot dot dot. And then for the fourth one, we have document.getElement by ID, parentheses, and double quotes, sex box, which sounds very strange, but it's referring to seconds, not sex. Dot inner HTML equals the value of seconds plus the word seconds, dot dot dot. All right, and I see here I have a comment that says document.getElement by ID, parentheses, double quotes, special day box dot inner HTML equals xmas. All right, so that is this statement right here. Everything up until the equals assignment is exactly the same as this. The only thing that's different is the one that I'm running that's not commented out, the document.getElement by ID, parentheses, double quotes, special day box dot enter HTML equals. Here I am assigning this element right here that I gave the name special day box, because that makes sense to me, because it may not always be Christmas. It may be whatever special day I want to refer to it. Here I gave it its own string. This is what it is assigned to it, dot 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 until Christmas. If I were to have many special days, like here I created Xmas up here at the very top. Var Xmas equals, and then this is the date that I was pinpointing or targeting. Let's say I create 10 different special days. Well, in that case, when we get down here to show it on the page, we will do it like this. On the right hand side of the equals, we will have document.getElement by ID, parentheses, double quotes, special day box dot enter HTML equals, but then we will only refer to the variable name that we care about, whether it's Xmas or birthday or tax day or vacation, field day, whatever day you want. Whatever variable is going to be responsible for targeting that. See, Xmas is targeting this. New date, December 25th, 2018, 000001. Xmas is targeting that. You can make as many targets as you want, and then just put the name of the variable here. Or the name of the variable, you don't use double quotes. Here, you just say equals Xmas. Here, because you're giving it a literal value, you have to put it in double quotes. Here, this is a variable that has a value, and this is a literal value that you are quoting. All right, enough of that. The next little note to self: keeps running function every second until we stop it. This is where we created the variable with the name of timer. We're using the set timeout function on the right hand side of that assignment. And when you use set timeout, this is how set timeout function works. You use the name set timeout, And then in between the parentheses, you have two things. You have the name of a function that you want to execute in single quotes. In this case, we're going to use the holiday function that I created. So you have holiday, empty parentheses, enclosed in single quotes. You have a comma, and then you have a time frame for how often you want that function to be called. So in this case, 1,000 milliseconds means a second. So every second, holiday gets called. And because this holiday gets called every second, this moves every second. All right, so here's the ending curly brace for that function. For the function holiday, the only function that we created in this whole thing. So we're done with that. And really there's only one function in the script tag, so we're done with our script. So then we have our ending head tag, so we're done with our head. Now let's quickly go over what's in the body, what you actually see on the web page. So here's our opening body tag. It goes from line 70 all the way down to line 83, and then that's really the end of the whole thing. The first thing we have is a field set, which I told you this field set basically is a thin line that goes around all of the elements in the page. And inside that field set we have a legend, and the legend is a caption. So opening tag, field set, opening tag, legend. Guess what? Closing legend tag. Now let's look at all these individual divs. Here's the div that has the ID set to days box. It also has a class set to time box. Remember when we were looking in the style tags, I had the pound symbol for days box, and then for the class I had a dot for the time box, and we gave styles to each of those. ID means individual, only one. Class means there could be many elements that get that style. So here we have the ID of days box, the class of time box, and then an ending div tag. So this is just the opening closing tag for the div, because the JavaScript is what creates what goes inside of the div, and the style is what gives us the border around the div. If we didn't have a border around this div, you wouldn't see anything but 223 days ... and I wanted you to see the delineation between the divs. Alright, the next div we have, div, this has an ID of hours box, and we styled it. We didn't style any of the IDs differently. They all get the same style because they're sharing the class. The IDs in this case are used for the JavaScript which does these expressions for us to determine how many days, hours, minutes, and seconds there are until your specified day. Alright, so that's hours box, class time box, closing div tag. The next, opening div tag, ID equals mins box, class equals times box, closing div tag. Lastly, div ID equals sex box, class equals time box, ending div tag. And the final div is whatever your special day is. Div ID equals special day box, and the class equals time box. Alright, so even this shares the styles that we gave time box, but it also has its own special styling for special day box as well. It's got the dashed green, not dotted, dashed lines, and the curve on the corners, and background of pink, and so on and so forth. Alright, so we finished all of the divs of the body. There's the end of the field set. And that's really all that this little web page shows you, is how to do a little chunk of a web page. Now, we have to have a particular piece of script that runs the holiday function. And this note to self says this function call must be after body elements are loaded in order to work. So right before the ending body tag we have yet another script, and technically we don't really need to say type equals text / JavaScript. It's understood. And let me, just to be sure, let me save it here and refresh it here and make sure that it's still running, and it is. So opening script tag, all we're doing is calling the holiday function. So you have the name of the function, which is holiday. It has nothing in the parentheses, and you close the statement with a semicolon. So we're calling holiday. And remember, holiday, because the function holiday uses a timer within itself to keep calling itself every second, this script down here will call the holiday function for the very first time, but once you call it, then it keeps calling itself over and over again. Then you have your ending script tag, the ending body tag, and the HTML. So it's a very simple little project that you can use for any type of countdown you want in your web page. You can also, instead of just have some little message, like I said, what did I do here earlier? It did a document.write. It completely covered up the web page with its own, and gave it a little message. That was really ugly. So what we should do instead, let's go back to the script. Let's open up the function holiday, and let's change this so that you can see it happen right now. But what I want to change is the document.write part, the very, in the if condition. Where's my if condition? Here. If the time difference is less than or equal to 0, we're going to clear timeout timer. That's fine and dandy, but I don't want to do document.write. So I'm going to comment that out, and I'm going to create something that I think would be would make more sense. I want to put my message in here, something that I already have. So the same way that we use this document.getElement by id.enter.html equals and then something, let's just copy this. Let's go back to under here. We're going to use the document.getElement by ID. Now, what ID did I give this particular element? We probably have to look at it again. Let's go back to the body, and let me put a dot here so I remember my place. Go back to the body. I have to see what I named that element. I named it special day box. Okay. So let's, and the S is lowercase, the D and the B are both uppercase. You have to spell it exactly the same. So special day box. Let's go back up here. Right here. Okay, so now we're targeting the element that has the ID special day box, and we want to change its inner HTML from what it is right now, the ... until Christmas, to, I'm not going to use the variable days. I'm going to just use a string. What do I want to say? I want to say, and this is a literal value, so whatever I type will come up. Merry, very merry, hairy Christmas to you all. All right, so that's really crazy. But what it should do is keep this just the way you see it, and when the countdown gets to 0, this may disappear. We may still see these pink boxes, but it won't have any inner HTML in there. I'm not sure. I didn't test this until now, but this definitely will change. It won't say until Christmas. It'll say all this crazy stuff. Very merry, hairy Christmas to you all. So I have to change this. Let's go back to today. What are we again? The 15th? May 15th, 2018, 2:21. So I want to go to 14:22. The hour is 14 military time. The minutes are 22, and I guess I could leave that 01 for seconds. Let's hit this to change that. 2 seconds. 10. Ooh, that didn't work. That didn't work. What did I do wrong? I mean, the timer is still going. what did I do wrong? Clear timeout timer. I'm going to change this to 23:01. So 18 seconds, 17 seconds. Get element by ID, special day box, enter HTML, very Merry Harry Christmas to you all. Why is that not showing? Huh. Alright, this is definitely what you would call a bug in the code. So I really don't have time to play with this right now. You may even see what I did wrong, but I will look at this later. I will go on ahead and submit this, and when I get home from work I will figure out what I did wrong, and then I will post the fix, because obviously this is not working as intended.